Hello, everybody. I'm Shinobi, technical editor at Bitcoin Magazine, joined by Bitcoin Core contributor Matthew Zipkin from Chaincode Labs. So we're going to talk a little bit today about Chaincode's BOSS program. So you guys, I think, have been one of the most prolific organizations in the space in terms of trying to engage with and pull new developers into the space.
Definitely, yeah. We're committed to education and recruitment. And the BOSS program, this is our third year of doing this program. The idea was to find the next generation of Bitcoin Core developers. And so what started off feeling like an educational program turned into something more of like an obstacle course, like a challenge, where basically the prize is that you're on the Chaincode Rolodex and we help you get funding. And on the website is bosschallenge.xyz, and you can see people who have succeeded in that over the past. And everybody gets something out of it, even if you're not one of the people who ends up with an OpenSats grant. We have thousands of applicants. We contact and partner with all the other type of educational cohorts out there, Bitshala, B4OS in Latin America, et cetera. And so it's really global. We end up with thousands of applications across all 24 time zones. And the code challenges begin. And in this cohort, the challenges will begin on Monday, and there's several grueling protocol implementing, it's hard stuff, and it's open source work. We try to make it so there's not really deadlines. It's supposed to feel like open source work. So you set your own pace, you're your own boss. We just are there to support. It's not as much of an educational program where there's lecture, homework, final exam. It's like there are these assignments that we want you to do. And the people who end up at the end with the OpenSats grants or whatever, perform amazingly well. They'll make it through all the challenges quickly, easily. They'll do them in Python and then go back and do it in Rust. And they really show off their skills. That's what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And so what's kind of the filtering structure and then some of the types of challenges for applicants?
Sure. So the filtering structure is hard coding challenges. And when Jonas came to me with the idea for this program 3 years ago, this was the model he wanted, was really hard. I don't know. I remember the Bio 101 class I took in college was at 8 a.m. And the only reason they scheduled that class at 8 a.m. is because they figure half the students can't even wake up that early. So it's just, it's a broadsword. And we're trying to set the bar very high with this. So what are some of the challenges? Well, implementing a transaction from scratch. We don't ask you to do the cryptography by hand, but we could. That would be a good one for next year. There are lightning challenges. Again, it's a lot of reading the spec and implementing it, but in ways you wouldn't normally think to do as an application developer. So we really want people to get into the protocol and see these tiny little details, like when do you add the length byte, and how are things encoded, little endian and big endian, and when do you hash and when do you double hash, and those kind of things that you could be working at a Bitcoin exchange, or you could be working on a Bitcoin wallet or using a library or something and have a vague knowledge of how Bitcoin works at the user interface level, but not really ever have to send bytes in the wire. If you're out in the desert and you need to send a Bitcoin transaction, you got nothing except the protocol. How are you actually going to do that? And people who are able to do that are a rare breed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of just trying to get the application devs more familiar with thinking low level and kind of getting them in that mindset to contribute at that protocol level.
Yeah, exactly. And also to be self-directed. Honestly, a lot of people have a problem with that if they're coming right out of university or a job where they have deadlines and assignments and they have to close tickets. And now they're in the space where it's go do Bitcoin. And they're like, well, you got to tell me what to do. And it's well, no, we don't. Nobody tells anybody at Chaincode what to do.
That's not how this works.
Right, exactly. And so, for example, one of the things that I think is really important is that people who want to contribute to Bitcoin use Bitcoin. You're not going to be a good contributor to Bitcoin Core if you never use the software. And in fact, if you use the software a lot and you have opinions, you'll be a great contributor because you use Bitcoin Core and you're like, this should be red, not blue. I'm going to open a pull request. Like, that's how we get you, So we want people to use the software, use it in interesting ways, and hate something about it. That's how we get contributors,
Mm-hmm. And what kind of like support structures do applicants have here in terms of being able to ask for advice or, knowledge-based information so that they can go figure out the things they don't understand to work on whatever challenge they're doing at the time?
Sure. So like I said, there's no lectures, but we do have the Discord server is like the town square for this program. And there's a different channel for every coding challenge. So when you're working on something, you're in a channel with other people who are working on the same thing. And another characteristic that we're looking for in candidates is how they help other people who advance and answer questions for people who are not as advanced. That's strong because that's it's what we're looking for in the developer community. Mm-hmm. So the big resource is everybody else who's doing the program. I guess I might be the only core developer actually in those channels. But so like I answer a lot of questions in the beginning, of each code challenge. If people can't, if there's, I'm there to like, if there's a problem with the assignment itself, or we have it's graded by basically CI actions, the submissions are. And so I'm there more as a technical maintenance. And I can't resist answering Bitcoin related questions because that's just what I do. But the beauty of the program is the point at which the other students are answering each other. And it's like the perpetual motion has engaged. And after enough students have made it far enough in each assignment that I can like just kind of monitor the channel and the students are helping each other out. It's like a beautiful thing.
Okay, so it's kind of like a Montessori type model. Like you just... I
don't know what that word means, but okay. Yeah.
It is kind of like a school structure where the teacher is more there as a safety net and kids kind of self-direct.
Great, yes. Yeah, exactly. And there's tons of written material too. The code base itself has documentation. There's things like Bitcoin Core Academy, which has the onboarding guide. Mastering Bitcoin is sort of our unofficial textbook. It basically, has everything. The Bitcoin Wiki has some good notes about the low-level protocol stuff, as well as other code bases. Plenty of other code bases have implemented like transaction serialization, and where we don't want students to cheat and just copy those serialization functions. They're good references, obviously.
Hey everyone, it's Shinobi, and I'm here in front of the Chicago Fed to talk to you about the core issue of Bitcoin Magazine. The last few years have been a bit of a communication breakdown between developers and people using Bitcoin. Bitcoin exists to be an alternative to this institution, but to do that, it needs people to actively maintain it. If you actually want to hear from developers themselves how they approach their work and what they choose to work on, go to bitcoinmagazine.com and get yourself a copy of the core issue.
Have you guys ever had somebody who didn't make it through the filtering process to the end, kind of apply again the next year?
Yeah, that definitely happens. I mean, like I said, there's thousands of applicants this year. I think we have almost 3,000. And last year, only 10 or 15 people made it to the end and got open SATS grants. We have so far this year's cohort, so there's about 3,000 applicants. They are working on the first code challenge. We're in the middle of that. That code challenge is supposed to be done by Monday. And last time I checked, there was something like 400 students have actually started the challenge and only about 200 have passed. So like already, there's...
The filtering.
Yeah, it's starting to crunch. So because there's a series of really difficult coding challenges, and even though open source doesn't really have deadlines, in this program we kind of do because we want to see how far you can get within 30 days, basically. And people who don't make it to the end will apply next year, and that definitely happens. So one thing we did this year is tweak the challenges all a little bit. Last year, the coding challenges were SegWit. This year, they're Taproot. So you can't just submit what you had last year and sort of like start where you left off. Like we want people to get back into it. And stuff happens. People have lives. Everybody in the program is in school or has a job, or none of them are professional full-time Bitcoin developers yet. That's the point. They're all doing something else. And life gets in the way. You work 2 weeks on this, and then something comes up with one of those other life things, and you can't finish. And a lot of those people are coming back.
I don't imagine that you guys track this kind of too closely, but have you noticed any kind of secondary funnels with people who don't complete or kind of make it through the process entirely, still kind of making connections and finding things to contribute to in the space?
Yes, and this is one of the things that's evolved in the program and is basically emotionally sensitive, because people have this. It's hard to do something like this without there being connotations of success and failure and pass and fail. But with such a huge range of entrants to finishers, what do we do with everybody else? And so the last couple of years, we've entered them in Chaincode seminars, where there's basically a secondary path where they can learn and discuss more reading material. It's a seminar program that Chaincode has done in years prior. I'm not sure what we're going to do this year, but we are also making it less of an educational program and more of a challenge, so that people who don't finish all the work in time aren't expecting something. And Chaincode we have all these other educational resources for everybody. But to answer your question more specifically, last year there were people who did not get grants, who were just in the program and still went and found jobs. And I'm connected with many of them. Will reach out to me and ask me for recommendation. And I'm like, oh, who's this person again? I'll go look at their scores and see they did the work. Maybe they didn't end up with an OpenSats grant at the end. But I can see that they were performative and competent, and I'm able to tell their potential employers those things. So
That's awesome. So, I know Boss isn't the only kind of outreach or kind of dev engagement program that Chaincode does. You want to just go through a little list, I guess, of the other things you guys do to kind of pull people into the space, or just offer more general educational resources and materials? Sure.
So my tenure at Chaincode is only a few years. And before that, they actually had a residency where some of my colleagues here actually were students and spent the summer here and eventually got jobs in the industry. We haven't done the residency since the pandemic. So I was never part of the residency. I was never here when it was happening. And so this Boss cohort really is the main event. We talked about doing summer residencies. We do have smaller things like internships. Actually, some of the Boss students from last year have been interns at Chaincode throughout the year. We host and sponsor New York Bit Devs. That's outreach. The Boss is really the big one.
Well, it's, whatever form these types of programs take in structure or goal, just in general, this is an incredibly important thing, to actually have these funnels for newer developers to come in, learn the things, the foundational materials they have to, and actually have some kind of loose guide. It's really, really important work you guys do with this stuff. Thank you very much for sitting down and talking to me, Matthew.
Thanks.
And I hope some of you out there watching are maybe getting some ideas of what to do with your January next year.
Yeah, plan ahead. Follow us on Twitter and get those applications in.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.